Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation on assessment and feedback. Today, we'll explore how to design valid, reliable, and aligned evaluations to effectively measure learning outcomes. We'll look at different types of assessments, including final evaluations, known as summative assessments, and real-time monitoring, which are formative assessments. Our goal is to understand how these tools can support ongoing instruction and improve learning. So let's dive in and get started. Let's take a closer look at what success really means in the context of assessment. When we talk about success here, we're referring to how assessments guide instructional adjustments. In other words, they help us understand what's working and what might need a change in our teaching approach. This is where responsive instruction comes into play. It's about using the insights gained from assessments to adapt and improve our teaching in real time. It's not just about assigning a grade. It's about providing meaningful feedback that supports student growth. That's why we call it actionable growth, because the goal is to use assessment data to foster continuous learning and development, not just to evaluate at the end. And this brings us to a dynamic tool. Assessment isn't static. It's an ongoing, flexible resource that helps us meet our students where they are and guide them forward. Ultimately, the core principle here is to understand that assessment is a vital part of instruction, designed to inform and improve teaching and learning. It's an introduction to assessment that emphasizes its role in creating a responsive, growth-oriented classroom environment. Let's take a closer look at this slide, which highlights a comprehensive cycle of continuous learning. At the core here is the idea that learning isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process that evolves over time. This cycle ensures that we're always assessing and refining our understanding and practices. Now, you'll notice the phrase, the assessment continuum. This is really about the spectrum of assessment activities we engage in, from simple monitoring to more in-depth evaluation. Monitoring is like keeping an eye on things regularly to see how things are going, while evaluation involves a deeper analysis to understand the impact and effectiveness. The key takeaway is that these steps are interconnected. Monitoring feeds into evaluation, and the insights gained from evaluation can inform new monitoring strategies. By moving seamlessly along this continuum, we foster a culture of continuous learning and improvement. Connecting this to the overall theme, it underscores that effective assessment is essential for growth. It's not just about checking boxes, but about using these insights as a foundation for ongoing development in our practices, programs, and outcomes. Let's talk about real-time monitoring to identify learning gaps. This is a crucial part of effective teaching because it allows us to see how students are progressing as they learn. By continuously observing and assessing their understanding, we can catch areas where they might be struggling before it's too late. This way, we can adjust our teaching strategies on the fly to better support each learner. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is formative assessment? Well, it's a type of ongoing evaluation that helps us understand students' learning in the moment, rather than just at the end of a unit or course. It's all about providing immediate feedback so students know what they're doing well and where they need improvement. In the context of our overall theme, formative assessment is like having a real-time pulse on the classroom. It keeps us connected to students' needs and helps us tailor our instruction to maximize learning. It's a powerful tool for ensuring that no student falls behind and that every learner has the support they need to succeed. All right, let's dive into some effective formative techniques that are low-stakes tools for assessing student understanding. First up, concept maps. These are fantastic for visualizing relationships between ideas, helping students see how concepts connect and build on each other. It turns learning into a visual, interactive process. Next, we have Think, Pair, Share. This strategy encourages collaborative reflection, giving students a chance to think about a question, discuss their ideas with a partner, and then share with the larger group. It promotes active engagement and deeper thinking. Finally, exit tickets are quick, simple checks at the end of a lesson. They help us gauge what students have absorbed and identify areas that may need further clarification. All of these tools are low stakes, meaning they're low pressure, but highly effective for ongoing assessment and support within the learning process. They align perfectly with our overall goal of making formative assessment an integrated, supportive part of teaching that keeps students engaged and informed about their progress. Today, I want to emphasize a crucial idea in pedagogy, that formative assessment is really not about grading or assigning scores. Instead, its primary purpose is to improve learning. When we think about formative assessment, think of it as a tool for feedback, guiding students toward better understanding and mastery. It's about identifying where students are in their learning process so we can support them more effectively. This approach shifts the focus from simply evaluating performance to actively fostering growth. Remember, the goal here is to create a learning environment where assessments serve as a stepping stone for improvement, not just a final judgment. This mindset is fundamental to effective teaching and aligns with our broader aim of enhancing student success. Now, let's talk about measuring achievement against standards at the end of a learning period, which is what we call summative assessment. This type of assessment is essentially the final evaluation of a student's learning, helping us determine how well they've met the learning goals. It's often conducted at the end of a course or unit, serving as a summary of what has been learned. The key idea here is that it's about measuring the overall achievement, not just ongoing progress. Think of it as the final score that reflects whether or not the learner has successfully met the set standards. This is a crucial part of the learning process because it informs us about the effectiveness of instruction and the learner's mastery. And of course, it ties back to our overall goal of ensuring that educational standards are achieved, preparing students for the next stage or real-world application. Let's talk about some of the key examples of summative assessments. First, we have science labs, presentations, and papers. These are great ways for students to demonstrate their understanding through practical experiments, sharing ideas publicly, or writing detailed reports. Moving on, we have performance-based assessments like end-of-unit portfolios and capstones, which allow students to compile their best work and showcase their skills over a longer period. Then, there are projects, midterms, finals, and standardized tests, which are more traditional but still crucial for evaluating student learning at specific points in time. Lastly, examinations serve as comprehensive assessments that help measure overall mastery of the subject. These examples are all important because they provide different ways to evaluate what students have learned, helping us get a well-rounded picture of their progress and understanding. They also align with our overall goal of ensuring assessments are meaningful and effectively measure student achievement. Let's take a closer look at some common challenges in assessment. First, we have the one-time snapshot. This approach captures a student's performance at a single moment, but it often misses the broader growth process. Learning is ongoing, and a single test doesn't tell the full story of progress. Next, there's bias and inequity. Standard assessments can sometimes favor students with cultural or linguistic advantages, putting others at a disadvantage. This highlights the importance of designing fairer, more inclusive evaluation methods. Then we have surface learning. When assessments focus primarily on rote memorization, students may learn just enough to pass without truly understanding the material. This doesn't encourage deep learning or critical thinking. High anxiety is another factor to consider. When students feel stressed or overwhelmed during assessments, their true abilities can be impaired. This stress can prevent them from demonstrating their actual knowledge and skills. Finally, these are some of the summative challenges we face. Overall, these issues underscore the need for more comprehensive, fair, and supportive assessment strategies that truly reflect student learning and growth. When we talk about designing for validity, the key goal is to make sure that our assessment actually measures what it claims to measure. It's not just about having a test or a tool. It's about ensuring that the results are meaningful and accurate in relation to the construct we're interested in. Validity is the foundation of trust in our assessment data. And as part of this process, quality control plays a crucial role. It involves ongoing checks and balances to maintain the integrity of our assessment tools. This could mean reviewing questions for bias, ensuring scoring consistency, or verifying that our methods align with the intended measurement. Ultimately, when we focus on designing for validity and implementing strong quality control, we are safeguarding the credibility of our assessments. This ensures that the data we gather truly reflects the abilities or traits we're aiming to measure, which is essential for making informed decisions based on that data. Now, let's talk about designing for reliability. One of the most important goals is to produce stable, repeatable results across different raters and over time. This means that no matter who is doing the assessment or when it's being done, the results should be consistent. Consistency is key here because it ensures that our data is dependable and that we can trust the outcomes. When we focus on designing for reliability, we're essentially building systems and protocols that minimize variability caused by human factors or timing differences. This helps us achieve results that are not only accurate, but also comparable across various contexts. Ultimately, this consistency supports the overall integrity of our work and strengthens the validity of our conclusions. Let's take a closer look at how to plan lessons that effectively support the tasks students need to complete. First, we focus on learning activities. These are the core experiences students will engage in to develop their understanding. Next, we move to instruction. This involves designing tasks that clearly demonstrate mastery of the skills or concepts. It's important to identify the assessment tasks early on, as these serve as evidence of student learning. By knowing what we want students to achieve, what the desired results are, we can better align our activities and assessments to those outcomes. Setting clear learning objectives is crucial. These objectives define the specific outcomes we expect from students. When we plan our lessons, we need to consider the action they will take, the focus of their learning, and the steps they will follow to reach those objectives. All of this ties back to the principle of backward design, starting with the end in mind, and ensuring everything is aligned to support student success. In essence, effective lesson planning involves carefully designing tasks and assessments that are aligned with clear outcomes, all rooted in a thoughtful, backward design approach. Let's talk about ensuring tasks are inclusive of diverse learning needs. This means designing activities that accommodate different abilities and backgrounds so every learner can engage meaningfully. Accessibility is key here, making sure tasks are reachable for everyone. Now, to make learning more authentic, we should use real-world problems that mirror professional practice. When learners see how their work connects to real life, it becomes more relevant and engaging. Speaking of relevance, combining higher-order thinking with real context creates what we call an authentic task. Higher-order thinking encourages analysis, evaluation, and creation, really deepening understanding. When we pair that with real-world scenarios, the tasks become truly meaningful. This approach helps learners develop skills that are not just theoretical but applicable in real situations. It's about designing tasks that are relevant, challenging, and inclusive, so every learner can thrive and see the value in what they're doing. Let's talk about the importance of self-assessment. When students evaluate their own work, it really empowers them to take ownership of their learning. It encourages reflection and helps them understand their strengths and areas for improvement. Next, we have the feedback framework. Having a clear structure for comments ensures that feedback is consistent and constructive. It guides both students and teachers in providing meaningful insights that support growth. Fairness is also crucial. By applying evaluation criteria consistently across all students, we maintain trust and integrity in the assessment process. Everyone knows they're judged by the same standards, which promotes equity. Explicit expectations are key as well. When students understand exactly how they will be judged, they can focus their efforts accordingly. Clarity in criteria and standards helps reduce confusion and anxiety. Finally, rubrics and transparency tie all these elements together. Clear rubrics make expectations explicit, so students know what's required to succeed. Transparency builds confidence and ensures that assessments are fair and understandable. All these components, self-assessment, feedback frameworks, fairness, explicit expectations, and rubrics, work together to create a fair, clear, and empowering assessment environment. They support the overall goal of helping students learn and grow effectively. Now, let's look at how we evaluate mastery of specific learning objectives. First, we have standards-based rubrics, which provide a single overall score based on a global impression of the student's performance. This approach gives a quick snapshot of how well someone is meeting the overall expectations. Next, there's the holistic approach, where tasks are broken down into specific criteria. This allows us to give more detailed feedback, highlighting strengths and areas for improvement across different aspects of the work. Finally, we have analytic rubrics. These are more detailed and break down the task into various components or criteria, helping us assess each part individually. Understanding these types of rubrics is essential because they serve different purposes and can be chosen based on what kind of feedback or assessment best supports the learning process. When we connect this to the overall theme, it's about finding the most effective way to measure mastery and guide student growth. Now, let's take a closer look at what makes up an effective rubric. First, we have anchor examples, which should make up about 30% of the rubric. These examples serve as clear benchmarks for different performance levels, helping both assessors and learners understand what is expected at each stage. Next, we have performance levels, also at 30%. These levels define the varying degrees of proficiency, from developing to mastery, providing a structured way to evaluate progress. Then, observable criteria make up the largest portion, about 40%. These are the specific, measurable indicators that demonstrate whether a student is meeting the criteria for each level. All of these components come together in the rubric to provide a transparent, fair, and consistent assessment tool. When designing a rubric, it's important to keep it core, meaning straightforward and aligned with learning goals, and effective, ensuring that it accurately captures the desired performance. Good rubric design isn't just about listing criteria, it's about creating a clear and usable guide that supports meaningful assessment. So, in essence, a well-crafted rubric balances these elements: anchor examples, performance levels, and observable criteria, to give clear guidance and foster effective assessment practices. Let's talk about how we can better support student growth through our feedback. Instead of just giving simple letter grades, we should focus on providing detailed, actionable feedback. This kind of feedback helps students understand exactly what they need to work on and encourages them to persist and improve. It shifts the focus from just the final grade to their learning process. This approach aligns perfectly with standards-based grading, or SBG, which emphasizes mastery of skills over time. The goal is to help students reach a 100% mastery level, so our assessments should reflect their progress toward that goal. By concentrating on mastery and growth, we create a learning environment where the emphasis is on continuous improvement. Grading for growth means we recognize effort and progress, not just the final product. Overall, this approach supports our larger goal of fostering a growth mindset and helping students see their potential as learners, not just as those aiming for a grade. Let's talk about some key qualities that drive effective feedback. First, being growth-oriented means focusing on development and improvement, rather than just pointing out faults. It's about encouraging progress. Next, when we say actionable or next steps, we're emphasizing the importance of providing clear, practical steps that someone can take immediately to improve. Specific feedback, or descriptive feedback, is crucial because vague comments don't lead to change. Instead, give concrete examples so the person knows exactly what to work on. Timeliness is also vital. Delivering feedback promptly ensures it's relevant and can be acted upon right away. Lastly, effective feedback traits include being honest, respectful, and constructive, aiming to motivate rather than demoralize. When we combine these qualities, feedback becomes a powerful tool for growth, aligned with our overall goal of continuous improvement and strong communication. You're on the right track. That's a great starting point, and it shows you're making progress. Now, what if you approach this challenge from a slightly different angle? Sometimes, shifting our perspective can open up new opportunities. Consider trying different strategies or tools that might better suit your goals. Your next step is to embrace feedback as a valuable tool for development, not as criticism. Remember, growth comes from continuous learning and adaptation. Keep this mindset, and you'll find yourself moving forward more effectively. Let's talk about the concept of ownership in the learning process. When students take ownership, they actively plan future improvements, which helps them become more autonomous learners. Goal setting is a crucial part of this. By setting clear, achievable goals, students can direct their efforts and stay motivated. Critical thinking then enters the picture, encouraging students to analyze and evaluate their work and that of their classmates. This is where peer review becomes valuable. By evaluating others' work, students deepen their understanding and develop a more critical eye. Metacognition is another key idea. It's about students reflecting on their own thinking and learning processes, which fosters greater self-awareness. Self-assessment ties into this, as students evaluate their own progress and identify areas for growth. The overall benefit of these strategies is that they empower students to take control of their learning journey. To make this effective, student action and student involvement are essential. They need to be actively participating in these processes. The method we use should encourage this involvement, creating a learning environment where students are engaged and responsible for their own development. When students are involved and take ownership, learning becomes more meaningful and impactful. All right, let's take a closer look at this cycle. Plan, teach, assess, reflect, and adjust. This is essentially the core of an effective instructional process. First, we start with planning, where we set clear goals and outline our strategies. Then we move on to teaching, where we deliver the content and engage students. After that comes assessment, which helps us measure understanding and identify gaps. Reflection follows assessment. This is where we analyze what worked well and what didn't. Finally, we adjust, making informed modifications based on our reflections. This cycle is continuous, fostering ongoing improvement and ensuring our teaching is responsive to student needs. It's a dynamic process that helps us create a more effective and adaptive learning environment. Mistakes are normalized as essential steps for growth. In our culture, we see mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and improve. Teachers, for example, use data to refine their lesson plans and to differentiate instruction, making sure each student gets what they need to succeed. Collaboration is key here. Working together helps us identify what's working and what needs adjustment. When we think about summative success, it's all about clarity, having clear rubrics that define expectations and success criteria. Plus, formative checks are ongoing assessments that provide immediate feedback, guiding instruction in real time. All of these elements, clarity, formative checks, and collaboration, come together in what we call an integrated system. This system helps us create a balanced approach where mistakes are part of the learning process, and continuous improvement is built into our practice. It's really about fostering a growth mindset, where both teachers and students see progress as a journey, not just a destination. And that's how we turn challenges into opportunities, ensuring everyone can thrive and reach their full potential. Creating a culture of continuous improvement is really the cornerstone of sustained success in any educational environment. When we talk about assessment as a catalyst, we're emphasizing how assessments aren't just about grading or measuring progress. They're powerful tools that can spark growth and innovation. By using assessments thoughtfully, we can identify areas for development and then actively work to improve them. Empowering teachers and learners is equally vital. When teachers are supported and given the autonomy to innovate, they can inspire students to take ownership of their learning. Likewise, learners thrive when they feel empowered, when they see assessment feedback as a way to grow rather than just a judgment. Ultimately, this slide ties back to the overall theme of fostering a proactive, reflective culture, where continuous improvement is embedded in every aspect of teaching and learning. It's about creating an environment where everyone is committed to growth, and assessments serve as a key driver in that ongoing journey.